Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day one of the Salesforce administration training. Today, we're going to be starting our getting started with Salesforce, and we're going to be looking into configuration and setup. Before I start this class, I would like to recap on the little thing we did yesterday. And one thing which I emphasized was the Trailhead platform. Everything I'm going to be saying in this class, you can get from the Trailhead platform, okay? So please make sure that you watch the video from yesterday. For today, we are going to go straight into Salesforce, okay? We're going to be learning some things about configuration and setup. If you're interested in writing the Salesforce admin certification, you'll be required to know about company settings. For example, how to set the fiscal year, the business hours, currency management, and other default settings. In addition, you'll be required to know a bit of the UI, the Lightning App Builder, how to display records and list view on the Salesforce platform. If you're going to be writing the exam, this contributes towards your exam, and it has a accumulation of 20%. If you want to find out how I was able to get all these details, you can go online and go to certifications, and you can go to the Salesforce admin certifications, okay? You go to the exam guide and you can see the curriculum for the Salesforce certification exam guide. For instance, the configuration and setup is what 20%. So we're going to be covering this in the next 1 to 2 days. We're going to cover the first 2 today, and we're going to cover the last 3 or 4 tomorrow. So again, this is from the official website, trailhead.salesforce.com. Now I'm going to go into details of what we're going to be learning today. We're going to learn how to set up a company. We're going to learn about the storage and licenses. We're going to learn about language settings, the organization ID, locale, time zone and currency, business hours and holidays in Salesforce, and the Lightning App Builder, okay? The reason why all these are important is because if you ever work as a Salesforce admin, the first thing you'll be required to do is to set up all this. So if someone hires you to become a Salesforce admin today, they might probably require you to set up all these features. Alternatively, they might require you to update them. In addition to that, if you have to write or submit a support ticket for Salesforce, you might require your organization ID. So today I will go through all these items, and hopefully at the end of the day, you'll be able to understand. And maybe if you have any questions, you can ask me at the end of the session. So I'm going to go straight right in, and I'm going to jump into the Trailhead. Again, Trailhead is where everything starts, okay? Trailhead.salesforce.com. You click on login. Login is to your right-hand side. The Salesforce Trailhead has nothing to do with Blackforce. So if you're going to learn Salesforce, you go to trailhead.salesforce.com. You sign up. I showed you how to sign up yesterday. Then you log in if you already have an account with Salesforce, okay? Yesterday, we used Blackforce demo as an account we created. Alternatively, you can just change it, but I usually like to change it because I have the org created yesterday, so I would rather use that org. Okay, so now that you've logged in, how do you get into the Salesforce org where the things we want to do, where we can see the things we want to do? You go to the right-hand side on your profile, you click on the hands-on orgs. The hands-on orgs is where you go and open up a free Salesforce org, okay? So you need to go on your profile to the right and click on the hands-on orgs. Once you click on it, you can create a playground. Yesterday, we created a playground called Blackforce Core 3 Playground, okay? So if today is your first day, make sure you sign up, you create a profile, you go to the profile, click on hands-on orgs, and you create profile. Okay. Once you create the playground, sorry. Once you create the playground, you will see this, and you can create as many playground as possible, up to a maximum of 10. After you create the playground, you click on launch playground. When you click on launch playground, you will be given a simple hands-on hub for Salesforce. One thing you should realize is that some of you might not get this page directly if you are just creating your playground today. Remember, this is the app launcher. For some of you, this is what you will see when you just launch your playground. This is fine. Yesterday, we talked about the app launcher. The app launcher is where you switch to different applications that Salesforce has designed for you to use. Alternatively, if you're good with Salesforce, you can also create your application. So the app launcher is where you go to switch application, okay? So initially, when you go to your playground, you will get this page. This is your first time of coming in from the hands-on org, you click on launch, you will get here, and you can switch to the sales app, okay? So now that we are in the sales app, you can see all these items on the sales app. Yesterday, I told you this is the front end. The front end is the nice things you see and the nice things that makes Salesforce what it is. However, the old engineering happens in the back end. To get to the back end, you click on the gear icon and you click on setup. Setup is the first thing when you click on the gear icon. A new window will be open, and this is the back end of Salesforce. Everything we want to learn today is in the back end in terms of Salesforce administration. The front end is what we are going to see based on our changes in the back end. So understand the difference between the front end and the back end. Now that we have the front end, let me explain one or two things. First of all is you have all these items. This is what they call the Salesforce tabs. And the Salesforce tabs, you can see objects on the Salesforce tabs. Okay? When you click on one object, let's say an account, for instance, you have what they call a display of all accounts in the system. Okay? You have what they call a display of all accounts in the system. This is very intuitive. If you have used Excel, you will be able to know that this is just like a spreadsheet. Okay? This is like storing records in the spreadsheet. The only difference is this is on the cloud. I told you yesterday, Salesforce is a software as a service. It's called SaaS. So meaning that they've already developed the Excel for you on the cloud. All you just need to do is use this. Unlike Excel, you have to enter new item, row after the other. With Salesforce, when you want to enter a new item, you click on new. We're going to be going through that in subsequent sessions, but I just want to show you that you can enter a record into this cloud spreadsheets. Just call it that way for easy understanding. Now, if you click on new, you can enter all these details as requested. And when you save, it is going to save here. Okay. So if you click on one of these records, you will see details of these accounts. Again, you don't need to worry about this until we get into objects. However, the details of an account is the information you fill when you click on that new button. Just like you're entering a new record in a blog post, you're entering a new record on your Facebook, the same way you're entering record. The only difference is you are entering record based on different fields for that object. Now going back, you've seen that you can create records and you can go into the record to see the details of the record. Now, how we want to find out how is this related to what we have to learn today? The first thing we have to learn today is data storage in Salesforce. To get into data storage, we go and do a quick find, data. So data storage, you type data storage or you type data, which gives you different options for data. The home is where you do a quick find on anything you're looking for in Salesforce. For instance, I'm looking for data storage. And when I type in data, I cannot see data. I can change it and type in storage. Okay? And it's on that data. That's what makes it a data storage menu option. Okay? So if you're looking for anything in Salesforce, well, let's say you're looking for how to create a user. Go to the Home tab and type in user. Okay? Type in user. If you're looking for how to do rows, go to the Home and type in rows. So the Home is where you can quickly do anything. You can quickly find anything you want. The Object Manager is a different concept on its own. I'm going to explain that to you in subsequent sessions. But the Home is where you do a quick find. So now I want to talk about data. I'm going to type in storage and I click on data storage. What are data storage? In Salesforce, in Salesforce, storage is divided into data and file storage. What do I mean by that? If I go back to this front end and I click on a new record, it saves this record in the system. Okay? This record is saved in what they call the Salesforce DB. And if you go to the storage, it tells you the limit of the storage. Can you guys give me 1 minute, please? So it gives you the limit on the storage, okay? Now, the number of records you enter into the objects would give you the size which you've used. The records you create is called data storage. If you have an attachment on the record, let's say you are maybe attaching a file, which obviously is not on this account object, but if you look at this notes and attachment, you click on upload files, then it is called file storage. As you can see, the hands-on hub has limited size. If you are a paying customer for Salesforce, you can request for this to be increased. Okay? Don't get intimidated. Don't get worried that, oh, we only have 5 MB, or what are we going to do with that? No. Okay? This is just a playground. Remember. So data storage is used by creating records such as data in the account, contacts, or opportunities. And most of the time, once you create a record, you only use 2 kilobytes of storage. Okay? You use 2 kilobytes of storage. But for the file, obviously, depending on the file size, you can use as big as 20 MB by just uploading a big file storage. So you don't want to upload a lot of files into Salesforce. However, if you're an enterprise, if you're a professional, by that, I mean, if you're on an upgraded version of Salesforce, you can request for a bigger size for your storage. Okay, so there are also what they call the storage by the objects and the storage by user. So if you kind of like see the storage is getting used up, you can find out how people are using the storage in your Salesforce. And you can find out what is causing the highest number of storage usage, okay? So this is where you just do some auditing just to make sure that you are on track. In addition to that, there is what they call the big object. The big object storage is for those that are into data analytics. For instance, if you want to get big data, by big data, I mean 1 million records. Right now, this account object cannot store more than, let's say, 100,000, maybe, I don't know, but up to, let's say, 1 million records, right? But big objects can store 10 million records, can store even 50 million. It can increase the size. So the reason why some people would want to maybe do that is maybe they want to generate reports, or they are collecting timestamps, or they're collecting something that has to do with big data. So if you're interested in big data, you have to use big objects. Again, when we get to object and settings, I will show you how to use object. But for now, know that Salesforce gives you the opportunity to have big objects. Okay? So now that we have that, we know what storage is, and we know how this storage is being influenced. Let's go to the next item, which is fiscal year. So what are fiscal year? Fiscal year in Salesforce is something that has to do with the organization. What do I mean by that? If you run a company, or if you own a company, you would want to have a fiscal year. A fiscal year is a start of your company financial year. So for instance, if you submit your taxes, or you file your taxes every March ending or every April 1st, then your fiscal year is the start of April and the end of March next year. So if you are using Salesforce for business, you can set your fiscal year. Reason for setting your fiscal year is it helps you manage your business. Let me explain. Let's say you have an opportunity, or you're doing some forecasting. Salesforce has some tools in place that helps you to predict your revenue for the next quarter based on the fiscal year. Okay? So based on your fiscal year and based on your previous performances, Salesforce can predict how much your earning will be in the next quarter. So, and they can predict how much your earning will be in overall in the entire year. So the next quarter, what will be the next quarter? The next quarter will be based on your starting month of the fiscal year. Okay, so if I start my fiscal year at January, the next quarter will be April 1st. If I start April, the next quarter will be July 1st, right? So Salesforce helps you predetermine what the quarterly annual finances or sales forecast would be. That's the benefit of having fiscal year in Salesforce. You can do a standard fiscal year, which is the normal fiscal year we have, starting normal 12-month calendar, like January, February, March, April to December, which is the normal one. Okay, and we can have a custom fiscal year. The difference between the standard fiscal year is the difference between the standard fiscal year and the custom fiscal year is the custom fiscal year gives you the opportunity to determine maybe the fiscal year can start with March 15, March 18. Unlike standard fiscal year, we only have the option of months and end months, the ending of the month and starting of the month. It's very rigid and it's very fixed. With a custom fiscal year, you can determine whether the fiscal year starts in March 15, March 18, or whatever it is. You can also determine your quarters. As I previously said, the standard fiscal year, if you start in January, if quarter is 333, then the next quarter will be April 1st. Then the next quarter will be July 1st. Those are automated by Salesforce. Okay? However, for the custom fiscal year, you can determine the interval between the quarters. It can be 1551. It can be 13321. It can be 1116. It's up to you how you want to determine your quarters. In addition to that, when you make changes, when you decide to change from standard fiscal year to custom fiscal year, you cannot go back. However, you still have the option to do the same thing as the standard fiscal year. It's just that you cannot change it back to standard fiscal year. And in addition to that, once you change to custom fiscal year, you would have your reports. So read this carefully. The only fiscal years available for reports, quarters, forecasts, and so on will be those defined by your organization. So you're going to lose some features. After enabling the custom fiscal years, your organization fiscal year will no longer be automatically defined by Salesforce. It will be based on what your organization has set, and you cannot revert this action. So before you enable custom fiscal year in Salesforce, you need to discuss with the business. You need to find out if this is what they would like to do. Because once you enable this, you cannot go back. Okay, as you can see, it's going to ask you questions and everything. You click on OK, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to open fiscal year. And as you can see, we have this fiscal year. One thing you will have noticed is this. When I click on that fiscal year, something happens. It's moved me back to a Salesforce platform you guys might probably not know what it's all about. This is what Salesforce used to look like. This is a classic Salesforce environment. As you can see, classic is just the previous years of Salesforce. They would have something like this. However, if you want to go back to where we were before, just switch to Lightning. Okay? The reason why we have that in the first instance is because we want to make changes to our fiscal year. And some changes cannot be made in the Lightning environment. It has to be the classic. So going back to setup, and I'm going to go back to fiscal year. Okay, fiscal year again. I click on fiscal year, and I can make changes. Okay, as you can see, I can make changes to what a quarter is all about. If I go to this, click on quarter. Okay, I can say, okay, this is, I don't want this to be called quarter. I want to call it something else. And I can deactivate this, and I can reorder this. But then again, I can go to the classic. Let me go back to the classic. If you want to go back to the classic where we were before, you can just go to your profile and click on Salesforce Classic. I'll open that in a new window just to keep. Then we can even create our own fiscal year, our own quarter prefix. If you want, you can create the quarter prefix and you can save it. So I want to go to the classic, and I want to go to setup in classic, and I want to go to fiscal year. Okay. So sorry, fiscal year. I type in fiscal. And the same way we have it in Lightning, we have it here as well, okay? I can edit the prefix. I can edit whatever this means, you know, like I can edit everything, and I can also replace them. Again, depending on the fiscal year you've selected, you can determine how you want things to be, okay? So if you go to the company settings, which gives you the company information, and it gives you other things about the company, okay? That is where you will get the fiscal year. This is an examination question. They will ask you, where can you make changes to the fiscal year? Can you make it in the fiscal year session, or can you make in the company information session? If you go to the company information session, you can see you can see a lot of information, but I don't think you can make changes to the fiscal year from the company settings. However, it's going to tell you when the fiscal year starts in. If I edit this, for instance, and I look for fiscal year, I want you to pay attention. You cannot make changes to the fiscal year in the company settings. You cannot make changes to the fiscal year in the company settings. However, If you go to the fiscal year, you can change the fiscal year, okay? So it's very important to know where to change fiscal year and where to see the fiscal year. Now that we are in company information, let me tell you more about the company information. When you get your Salesforce org as an admin, the first thing you want to check is the company information. The company information gives you everything you need to know about your Salesforce org. For instance, the company information is where you enter the organization name, Black Force, or whatever your company is, the address of the company, the locale of the company, which I'm going to explain shortly, the language, default language of the company. You want to see the space that has been used. You want to see the last login. You want to see a lot of information, including licenses. I'm going to explain all this to you shortly. So the company information is where you see information about the company. Okay. So if you click on edit this company, you can make changes to the company information. One of the changes you can make to the company information is the locale settings. What is the locale settings? The locale settings gives you where the company is not really located, but the default locale, like default language, default time zone, default. I think locale is a general English term called locale. However, it also gives you the area, the zone where the company is located or is operating from. Okay, so if you are based in Canada, then you want to choose English Canada or French Canada. If you're based in Armenia, you want to choose Armenian or whatever language it is. Okay, and if you're based in Germany, you want to choose whether English Germany or whatever language is spoken in Germany. So you can set this locale according to your organization. You can also set the language. As you can see, we have different types of language we can set. Now, what you need to understand about locale is this. The company will give you the locale settings by default. So if you have 10 users in the business, if you have 10 users in your Salesforce org, and some of these users are not based in Canada, let's say they are based in England, the locale for the company, if the company headquarters is in Canada, you will set the locale as English Canada or French Canada, whatever it is. However, someone that is based in UK would not be in the same time zone as the business headquarters. This is where you can override the locale settings. In Salesforce, you can set the default settings of a company in the company information. However, the user that is using the Salesforce, which is mostly what they will see in the front end, they can change this locale to what they prefer, or the locale of the place which they are based in. For instance, if I have this set as English Canada, I can go to my profile. My profile is right in the icon on the top right. I click on my profile and I go to settings. Do not mistake set up as an admin privilege from settings as a user privilege. Set up is where the admin goes to make changes. Set up is where the admin goes to make changes. Settings is where user, let's say you want to change your password. Okay, you want to change your password, you go to settings to change your password. So you need to understand that setup is where you go if you're an admin. Settings is where you go if you are a user. Now I'm acting as a user right now. I'm acting as a user and I want to change my locale. As you can see, I can go to language and time zone. language and time zone is where I can change my own locale. So for instance, I go to setup as an admin. I go to company information and I click on language. Let me go to company information here. And I click on edit. And I change this. I'll leave the default as English Canada. Okay. But now I want to change it to something else from me because I want it to be different from what the company is offering me. I want something really, really out of my time zone. So I'm going to choose West Greenland, which is about -3 to the GMT. Okay. Instead of English, I'm going to change it to French. Okay. And I'm going to change it to French Canada. Okay. I'm changing it to French Canada. Okay. So now the company has set the locale to English. Okay. The company set the locale to English Canada. They set their default language to English. They set their default time zone to New York EST -5 away from the GMT. However, because I am a French speaker, I don't understand English. I have changed the company locale region to the language I understand. Salesforce has changed all this language. Can you see? Some languages Salesforce will change by default if Salesforce support that language. If Salesforce does not support the language, then Salesforce will not give a translation for that language. As you can see, I don't think contact is translated, okay? But you can see most of the items are translated. So always have it at the back of your mind. The user can change the language of Salesforce. Even though the company has set it as English, I can change it based on the language I speak. Okay, so have that at the back of your mind that you can change the time zone, you can change the language settings. Let's go to another interesting, important concept, which is the currency. Again, just like the language settings. Okay, let me go to company information. And I go to company information. I need to understand this now. So I need to go back to English, right? So I need to, because whatever you type is now being looked for in French, okay? So you have to be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, then you have to make sure that, okay, what I can do is this, okay? I think I should be able to translate, okay? Just 1 minute, I want to make sure I can get it right. So I think this is it. I'm gonna revert it back to English so I can understand the Salesforce platform, okay? Otherwise, we are gonna be struggling to understand what I'm teaching. So English, where is Anglais, Canada. And time zone should be New York -5, okay? New York -5. I think I'm good. I believe this is safe. So once I save this, everything should go back to normal. So if I refresh this, I will understand what I'm doing again. Okay, so everything is back in English. And as you can see, we have that in place. So now let me talk about something else, which is the currency, okay? The currency, I can go to language settings. Okay, before we go to currency, let me talk about language. As you can see, we have what they call enabled end user language, and we have platform-only languages, which means that there are no translations enabled. Enable user language means that there are translation available for you. So if you speak Yoruba, for instance, Salesforce can say, okay, We can give you Yoruba if it is there, but I will not be able to translate certain things in Yoruba. It's just that it's available for you. This will come handy when you are building custom objects and you're building custom label. With custom label, you can provide translation for a label. So if you want to change all the labels here to Yoruba language, you'll be able to change them. But Salesforce might not give you out of the box, okay? It's just that you have to change them yourself. So this is, and also you can enable. So for instance, right now, if you don't want anyone that speaks Italian, Japanese, Korean, Danish to be part of your business, you can disable that language option and you save. Once you disable the language option and you save, the user would not have that liberty to select that language. Okay? So if I go to my language, the options will become limited. The options became limited because the business has disabled those languages. Okay? So remember, the business setup is where we go to make changes to language, locale, and everything. Okay? So now let's go back to company information and see some items. In the company information, we can see what we call the Salesforce.com organization ID. As an admin, this is very important. It is important because if you have any issues as a Salesforce admin, you might want to get in touch with Salesforce. And the first thing Salesforce will ask you is, what is your Salesforce.com organization ID? Let's go to help.salesforce.com. This is where you go if you need help with Salesforce. Salesforce will help you troubleshoot whatever problem you're having. However, Salesforce recommends you have a Salesforce admin in your business. That's why you're in this class. However, if you're a system administrator, you get stuck trying to understand one or two things, you can contact Salesforce. When you contact Salesforce, you have to connect it to an org, okay? And that org could just be this org that you're working on. Once you connect it to an org, you'll be able to submit a ticket, and Salesforce will be able to address your tickets. Okay? So remember, the help.salesforce.com is where you go if everything else fails. Okay? You don't understand how to do things, Salesforce can help you, but you have to connect it to your account. Okay? So now going back to the company, I'm going to click on edit, and I'm going to show you something. There's what I call currency. As you can see, just like we have with locale settings, we also have currency. Currency in Salesforce is very important. If you're working in a business that is very sensitive with pricing based on geographical location like US, Europe, Africa, and you're trying to close a deal, or you're selling a product, or you're selling something online that has to do with location, like currency differences, there are currency differences or forex exchange in whatever you're doing, then you might want to enable multi-currency. Salesforce gives you out of the box multi-currency platform whereby you can change, or you can, how would I put it? You can exchange, or you can translate the exchange. You can create an exchange of what we currently have as a Canadian dollar to whatever currency we are exchanging to, we're doing business with. For instance, if this business is multinational and we have a branch in Africa, we might not be getting Canadian dollars. We might be getting some maybe Nigerian naira or some other currency in Africa. Now, Salesforce gives you the opportunity to enable multi-currency. Multi-currency, it's a very complex feature in Salesforce. So if you don't have anyone that manages the currency, you might want to leave it as standard, because one thing about multi-currency is that if you're selling an item, you need to constantly update the exchange rate of that item. Otherwise, it's going to affect your forecast. And that will come very handy if you're working with opportunities, which I'm going to explain in subsequent classes, okay? So opportunities is when you're selling something and it has to do with amounts. So if you have multiple currency enabled, you need to know which currency you're actually selling at, okay? So now the implication of having a multiple currency enable is, number one, once you enable it, you cannot disable it. You cannot disable a multi-currency once it is enabled. And it is your responsibility to track the exchange differences between these currencies, unless obviously you're not interested in the exchange. There's also what Salesforce called dated multi-currency. A dated multi-currency is when you enable this currency, and whenever you sell a product at certain currency, you monitor the dates of that exchange. So in future, the same currency, which was exchanged as 1.2, could be at XYZ dates, could be exchanged at 1.3 in ABC dates. Okay? Remember, you don't need Salesforce to enable multi-currency. You click on Activate Multi-Currency, you save, and Salesforce would enable multi-currency for you. As you can see, when I enable multi-currency, I saw a new tab called Currency Setup. I click on Currency Setup, and I can set the corporate currency. The corporate currency will now be the default currency of the organization. You can add new currency. Let's just say Barbados dollars, and I say the exchange rate is 1.5. I save this, and now I have Barbados dollars as part of my currency. Remember, the exchange rate determines what the person that is selling in Barbados dollars or the user that is based in Barbados sees. Let me explain that. We have the front end, and let's say we have an opportunity, okay? So I click on one opportunity. This is the opportunity, right? I refresh, let me refresh to see if it kicks in. So I have this opportunity. I'll go to this profile, settings, and I want to go to, let me see if I can change. I can change to Barbados dollars, meaning I want to see my currency in Barbados dollars, okay? So if I did not enable multi-currency, I wouldn't have that option. Now that I have the option, I say my opportunities should be in Barbados dollars, or there should be a translation. There should be a conversion, okay? It's going to give me conversion of what the Canadian dollars is in Barbados dollars, okay? You can see that conversion, and the conversion is based on the exchange. Now, the interesting bit is that you need to ensure that it is always 1.5 as we have created in our exchange. There are chances that it will no longer be 1.5, okay? There are chances that it will no longer be 1.5, and that's where you enable advanced currency management. The advanced currency management would help you edit the currency based on a particular date. It is very technical. I don't recommend this for any business unless the currency arbitrage is important to the profitability of the business. So you don't normally do this as an admin, but it's important you know it. Okay, it's important you know it. However, you can hire a developer that will connect this exchange to an API. So you can get the latest exchange based on an API, and it's being connected. So right now, I said the exchange is 1.5 previously, but now I'm saying it is only 1.5 at this start date. I can now create another exchange rate, the same Barbados dollars, in maybe next week. It's going to be 2.5. Okay, so when it is this date, the exchange rate will no longer be 1.5 but 2.5. So if I go to the next date, you will see the exchange rate has changed to 2.5. So you just need to know why you're doing it. If you don't know why you're doing it, just leave it. That's why Salesforce says, okay, before you enable this, make sure you know why you're doing it. Okay. So now that you know a lot, I wouldn't say a lot, but you know the capability of currencies in Salesforce. Let's go back to our company settings, and I will show you other things you need to know. You know the fiscal year, which is important. You know the time zone, the default time zone. You can change it to the user based on the settings of the user. You know the corporate currency. Previously, we don't have corporate currency. Now, because we've enabled multi-currency, we now have corporate currency. You know why we have this data space issue. Data space is to check how much data you've used in your hub. Okay? And you know what the Salesforce ID is. You also know what this is. This is like the developer edition, which shows your current org. So right now in Blackforce, we have what we call basic, we have what we call standard, we have what we call professional. Salesforce has something similar. It is called maybe free, it is called developer, it is called professional, it is called enterprise, and it's called, I think it's called enterprise, okay? Enterprise, professional, developer, and there's one last one I cannot remember right now, but that's the way, that's what it means, okay? It means the addition of this org. The addition of this org will determine the features you get to see. Now that you've seen that, let's go further down and see what we can tell about licenses. In Salesforce, we have what we call licenses. Every time you set up a new Salesforce, you can use it, but there are limited things you can do when you set up a new Salesforce. The licenses you have in Salesforce determines what you can do, or what a user can do, sorry. For instance, if you can see the user license, we have what they call the Salesforce license. The Salesforce license gives you the opportunity or the privilege of working with all these objects. So if you want a user to be able to work with all the objects or the fancy things you see in the front end, they would require a Salesforce license. Salesforce is in a licensing business, meaning if you want any user to have access to this Salesforce org, you have to create a user and you have to assign a license for that user. Without a license, the user cannot log into Salesforce. Remember, if I log out of this Salesforce right now, and I want to give someone else access to this Salesforce, they will need to log into Salesforce. They will need to log in. I was able to log in from the hands-on org, which I don't have to use the username and password. However, if I want someone else to use my Salesforce org, they will need to log in using a username and a password. I'm gonna teach you how to create a user and a password tomorrow, but you need to know that everything is driven by a license. So the Salesforce license, again, can be found in license. You click on license, and you can see the Salesforce, you can see the number of licenses you have. As you can see, we have this license for data. Okay, this is data.com licenses, which is not the same as a Salesforce license. Let me go back to the company information to get you the Salesforce license. So the Salesforce license is assigned to a user. Now, we have other user licenses, but chances are you might never get to use this unless it is required. Let me explain some of the things that might be useful for you as a Salesforce admin. The charter-free license. The charter-free license is given to users that might not necessarily need all these items, but they want to chat, just like using Slack. They want to communicate. So this object gives you access to the charter. So if you want user to chat, talk within your org without necessarily having access to all this, then you give them a charter-free license. If you have a community, which is the external customer-facing platform, which is external to Salesforce, there's a license for that. And similarly, if you have other things within Salesforce, like the Salesforce platform, there's a license for it. The difference between the Salesforce platform license and the Salesforce license is the Salesforce license gives you features such as opportunities, leads, account, contact, and everything. But the Salesforce platform license does not give you that opportunity, does not give you that object. You don't get access to that object with the Salesforce platform license. Okay, so in addition to the user license, we have what we call a feature license. A feature license is the license that extends or that grants you access to a particular feature in Salesforce. One of the features is marketing user. In Salesforce, we have what we call the standard Salesforce platform, which is something really cool. But there's also what they call the marketing side of Salesforce, which is mostly campaigns. If you want to use the campaign objects, if you want to create new campaigns, you would need what they call the feature license you need what they call the marketing user license, which is under the feature license. By this, it means that marketing user is like an additional feature for this sales cloud platform. It's an additional feature, right? And this feature license grants the user access to the feature that Salesforce is providing outside of the standard Salesforce license. I know this stuff might get confusing for you, but let me give you an illustration of what I mean. The only way I can demonstrate this to you is by going to the user, and I go to the users. When I click on this guy, this is Olajide-Babatope, I click on it, and you will see that Olajide-Babatope has a marketing user license checked. So if you want to give a user that you're creating a feature license, you have to check that box. I'm going to be telling you more about this tomorrow, but have it in mind that marketing user, offline user, knowledge user, flow user, they are what they call the feature licenses. Okay, so now going back up again, we have what we call permission set licenses. What are permission set licenses? Permission set licenses are different from the feature license because permissions set licenses are permission to have access to things that are installed externally. For instance, Analytics Cloud Builder. Analytics Cloud Builder is something you can use to do analytics, and it is something that you have to integrate within Salesforce. It's not something that comes out of the box. It is something you have to integrate. So in order to grant the user license for this application, you need what they call, sorry, let me go back. You need what they call the permission set licenses. Okay? We have limited permission set licenses we can use because obviously these are very expensive to Salesforce. And now you don't get this out of the box. You need someone to integrate this and you need to start using it. Whereas the feature license, you can get out of the box, okay? And for every licenses you have here, you can increase it. Let's say you now have 10 people working for within your organization. You can buy more licenses. To know more about the Salesforce license, you need to go to the salesforce.com and find out the cost of Salesforce licenses. Is very expensive. That's all I will tell you. It's very expensive, but it's doing the job. So if you want to find out more about the Salesforce license, just go into what different licenses you can use in the pricing, and you will find out which license is right for you. And as you can see, the essential, that was what I missed the last time, the essential. So we have the essential, we have the professional, we have the enterprise, we have the unlimited. The one you get from the handbox is the developer. For those that are lost, let me show you what I'm referring to. When we go to the company information, it says organization edition, right? And this is developer edition. That one is free. It's what we get out of the box. But if you look at this, we have essential, professional, enterprise, unlimited. So we're using the hands-on org to demonstrate what we're learning. But if you want to go into business, this is what you need, okay? You need to pay for Salesforce license. So the business or your interviewer, they will ask you, what license, do you know anything about Salesforce license? And what license should I get from Salesforce? This is where you go. You go to pricing and you try to understand the difference between essential, professional, enterprise, and unlimited licenses. Let's go back to the old. So now that you know a bit of licenses, you know a bit of user license, feature license, and permission set licenses. Let's go to what we call business hours. As you can see, some of you would send an email to support and you'll be expecting a response in 2 minutes. Canada is currently on a time zone, like we're currently on Eastern time zone, which is -5 from the GMT. So chances are if you're in the UK, it's going to be around 3 a.m. in the night right now, in the morning, early hours of the morning. And if you're in somewhere in Australia, you're probably going to be 9 a.m. in the morning. Okay? So the business hours is very important. Business hours helps you to segment or determine the hours of operation for your business. What do I mean by that? If I'm working in a multinational organization or business that requires some of my staff to be available for support, even after the business hour, even after the office or the business is closed for the day, then I can determine a different business hours for those employees or my contractor. So basically, I can set in maybe Asia business hours. I can make it active, and I can say they are in a time zone based in somewhere in Asia. I don't know. Then I can say, okay, they don't work 24 hours. They work from maybe whatever time it is, okay? You can set the time and you can say they work from, let's say 2 a.m. to 11 p.m., right? And obviously this is just hypothetical, right? You save it and it's active. What this means is that when a support ticket, for instance, when a support ticket comes into the system from an external user that needs help, we can assign this ticket to our Asia user. So they'll be working based on that time zone. And they'll be able to attend to all support tickets within the time zone set. That means we're going to be working 24 hours. But some people that are based in the EST time zone, they'll be working the EST hours. Some people based in Asia, they'll be working in Asia time zone. So the business can be a 24/7 business, but the person that logs in will be based in the time zone which they log in. So if I go to my settings, I think I should be able to determine the time zone for my user. Okay, I have to go to the user. I go to the user, and when this actually happens when you are on cases. So when you're creating cases, you'll be able to set the business hours that is relevant to that case. Don't worry about this. I'm going to show you when the time comes, but I just wanted to see if I can set the time zone for this. Just 1 minute. Let me check time zone, if it is there. Escalation rules. No. Okay, don't let me overwhelm you with this right now. When we get there, I will show you more. But it's essentially what it means is that when a support ticket comes in and it is assigned to a user, the user will see the support ticket and the escalation or the service level agreement for completing that support ticket will be based on the time zone set for that user. It's set for that case. So the user would not miss the escalation or would not miss the service level agreement. For most people, service level agreement is the agreement set by the customer and the business on when to resolve all issues. Okay? So going back to the time zone, let's go back to the time zone again, because that's very important, right? Let's go back to business hours. The business hours. Remember, you can set as many time zones as possible, but a case can only be assigned to one time zone, and you can make the default time zone what they will use unless otherwise. So always use Salesforce features to solve business problems. Don't try to crack things by yourself, but use Salesforce as a tool that can help you solve all your business needs. Now, going back to in line with business hours, we also have what we call the public calendar. So the public calendar is just, okay, this business is currently on public holiday, and you can see what the public calendar is for the business. However, there's also what they call the holidays. So holidays essentially is just like you setting the generic holiday for this business. The implication of these holiday hours is just, okay, if a new case, for instance, is submitted on the 25th of December, and 25th of December is on Monday, this does not break the service level agreement, because the holiday has been set, an holiday has been set as the 25th of December. So this is just a way of, covering your potential issues, especially if you're working in a service-based industry. And as you can see, managed currencies appear when we enable multi-currency. And if you go to language settings, you can determine the language which you want to activate for a business. So I'm going to take a pause here to find out if I have covered some of the things that needed to be covered in the organization setup part 1. And if there's any other thing, I'm going to cover them. So I think I've talked about the company settings, the storage and the license, the language setting, the organization ID, local time zone currencies, the business hours and the holidays, UI search settings. So let me quickly talk about UI and search settings. In Salesforce, you can search for anything in the system. Anything you want can be searched using this. Also, you can be very specific about your searches. For instance, instead of searching globally, which is a case object, you can be more precise. I want to have the case object searched. Then every data in case object would come up. As you can see, the recent cases are being displayed. In addition to that, go to accounts, then recent accounts will be displayed. So every search you put here is going to be based on the account objects. But you also have the global search, okay? One thing you should know about the search is encrypted data cannot be searched. What do I mean by encrypted data? If a data has been encrypted within Salesforce, you cannot search that encrypted data in the global search. In addition to that, we are expected to know the UI. I've given you the UI. The UI is like an Excel sheet. You can switch between views using your selected view. For instance, I want to find out all platinum and gold SLA customers, and it's going to show me. This is like an Excel sheet, okay? This is where you filter based on the things you want. And if you like, if you're actively using my account objects and you want to only see your account, whenever you click on the account objects, you can pin your account objects, my accounts records. So this will only display my account anytime you click on accounts objects. Again, you can go into details of an account and see what is in that account. You can create a new account. And whenever you're creating a new account, anything that has a red asterisk to the field is required. Okay? In addition to that, if you don't like this view, maybe you just want to create all customers that are direct type. How do you do that? You create a new list view, which is a gear icon here. Don't mistake it for the gear icon here, okay? This is a setup. This is for this view, okay? You say new, and you give it a name. And once you give it a name, the API automatically comes up. For instance, I want to find out customer direct. So I want this view to be all customer direct account type. Once I create the name, the API automatically appears if I click outside of this box. Once I say customer direct account type, I can set the visibility of this list view. I can say, oh, okay, I am the only one that wants to see this view, or I want all users in the system to see this view, or I want it to be specific user roles to see this view, okay? So you have that liberty to do that. Once you save, it will give you the option to filter. What will be the difference between the previous view, which is my account, and this view, which is customer direct account type? Nothing, right? The only thing that makes it different is the filter. So you click on add filter, and you will say the type of the account. Okay, must be equal to customer direct. Okay, and you say done. Once you save, it will limit the number of account type to only account that has type customer direct. Okay, so that's the way you create a list view. That's the way you create a list view for a new account. As you can see, you have the liberty to transform everything you have on this list view. Same goes with other objects. Okay, same goes with other objects. So remember, you have that opportunity. In addition, you can view this in a Kanban view. For some people, they are aware of how the Kanban looks like, but technically, you can arrange your account in a Kanban view. This is not a very good view. You can change this. Let me see. You go to Kanban settings, and you can change it to maybe annual revenue, and you save. Okay. Again, this is not really good, but then again, that's the option we have, right? We have the table view, we have the Kanban view, and we have the split view. The split view is very good because you don't have to open the tab before you see the details of the accounts. It comes dynamically, and you can see those details by just clicking the left. If you're a good Salesforce administrator, this should be your default view because it makes life easier for you, right? You're looking for an account, you can easily find it. Okay? And again, you can switch back to the default view by going to table. So I've shown you the view, okay? I've shown you the list. You can import the account data, which I'm going to show in subsequent classes. You can even print the list, and it's going to look well formatted, and you can submit this to your manager. There's so many things you can do with Salesforce, but you need to practice. You need to practice how to use Salesforce. You can edit this, okay? I can change everything here to prospects. How did I do that? I click on this checkbox, it selects everything. Then I click on one icon here, and I can update everything to direct, or if I select this box, it's going to update everything to direct. Otherwise, it's not. Okay? So this is how you work with Salesforce. If you save this right now, everything will be changed to direct. If you don't save, everything will not be changed to direct. Okay? So play around with all this, and you can even get a chart from this right now. Just by clicking on the chart, you can see what the breakdown in terms of chart, account by industry, you can see them. Okay, so this is what Salesforce is asking us to know in our organization setup section of the exam certification. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to take a break to find out from you guys if you have any questions, and I'm going to answer those questions one after the other. Please raise your hand up if you have any questions so I can address them. Thank you. So I'm going to unmute. I'm going to call people to unmute themselves and speak, okay? Starting with Ken Francis. Ken Francis, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Hi, Babatope. I have a few questions. My first question is coming from the standard fiscal year. Is it regarded as a default fiscal year? Since you said once you change from standard to custom, you can't go back to standard. So,
yeah.
So is it regarded as a default fiscal year?
Yes, the default fiscal year is a Gregorian calendar, which is January, February, March, April, May, June. Then you select the January as your default fiscal year. Okay, so that's the default. However, the custom one means you have to specify the start month or the start, maybe a specific day of the month as a start month, okay? But the default one is a standard, but you still need to select the month itself, okay?
Okay. So my second question is, enabling the multi-currency, is it advisable as a Salesforce admin to do that, since it is like you're going to be operating it manually in order to affect your rate?
Yes. So it depends, okay? The first thing is, if you enable multi-currency, then you give everyone the freedom to determine their currency, okay? So as you can see, when I enable multi-currency, I could see some opportunities giving me an exchange rate in the Barbados dollars, right? So now, if this would change tomorrow, you have to update that exchange rate manually. However, you can specify the dates, which this was 1.5. So for analytics purpose, you can now say on XY dates, this was 1.5, but 2 weeks after, it was 1.75. So you can do your analytics after the fact. However, it is highly recommended to only update multi-currency if the business depends on it. Do you get what I mean? Because if you say you close a sale at 235, whereas after next week, it's no longer 352, sorry, it's no longer 352, but 375. It kind of like make it really vague, right? It makes it really hard to track the profits from the business, because initially we made a profit of 1.5, but after we made it 1.7 and nothing has changed, just the exchange rate has changed. So it's always good to have a dated exchange rate and do the analytics based on the dates the exchange changes, okay? It's a bit tricky, but again, for you to be doing that, definitely your business must depend on it. That's why you're enabling it, okay?
So if I enable it and I have a forecaster that wants to forecast for the next quarter, are you sure? You don't think it's going to bring kind of confusion between myself and the forecaster?
It's up to you. It's Salesforce gives you the feature. If you are a business that requires that, my recommendation would be to get a developer or get an app exchange that would help you manage the exchange rate in real time. For instance, yesterday, I told you about the app exchange. The app exchange is where you go to a marketplace to find out if there is a currency exchange plugin. Okay, let me look. I'll just type currency, and it's going to give me those that, can you see, currency updater. So you don't need to hire a developer to do this. You just need to install this, and it will give you live currency updates. So 1.5 will no longer be static, but it's going to be dynamic. Okay, again, if your business depends on this, you will be getting the right help needed. But for a Salesforce admin, your job is to click and unclick. You will not do anything like this, but they can just tell you, can you go and update the currency in the system? Or maybe they can say, can you enable Barbados dollars for this org? That's your job as a Salesforce. It's the easiest thing you could ever do. As a consultant, you'll be doing something more like it, okay? But we're gonna get there. And when we get there, I will show you an example of how it works, okay?
Okay. My final question is, as a contact, are you allowed into the account settings? Because you showed us the setup and the settings. So if, as a contact, if you go into your settings and make changes, will it affect on the account?
I'm trying to understand that. So when you say account, you mean the account records like this, right?
Yes, like business, businesses are regarded, or companies are regarded as accounts. So now you, as an employee, the contact, if each contact have to go into their settings and make changes, won't it kind of affect the admin based on the time zone and any change they are making through the settings?
Again, this is only given to a system administrator. As a user, you
so
cannot
this is kind
get
of
here.
super user.
So an admin is someone that can make changes. When you make changes as an admin, it affects everyone in the system. However, as a user, you have what they call settings. Settings is different from setup. Settings, changes you make in the settings is only applicable to you. Okay. Meaning that if I change this stuff to US, for instance, it will show that on my profile, I'm a US-based worker. It doesn't affect every other person in the system. If I change my language and locale to Canadian dollars, it means that I will be seeing things in Canadian dollars. And it doesn't affect anyone that is based in Tokyo. Okay? However, if the admin says everyone should only have Tokyo currency, then I will not be able to see all this unless I go to my settings to change it to what I want to see. But if the admin does not allow this, I would not even be able to change it. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
No worries. Afia, unmute yourself and speak, please.
Hi. I noticed that when you first started, you started with the sales. So this is the sales interface, right? What is the reason why you started with this one? And does the Service Cloud and the other interface all look like this one specifically?
That's a good question. Okay. So I started with the sales because most people will be using the sales. Most business will be using the sales, but there's also the service. And there's also, you see, limited options, right? Because there's not much going on in service other than cases and accounts. And we have the marketing as well. So basically, Salesforce has created this application to showcase the capability of Salesforce. Meaning that, okay, you got Salesforce today. If you don't have a Salesforce admin, you can still use the Salesforce platform because we've created the basic things you probably need to use your Salesforce, right? So the sales was just an easy one for me to select, but I could have selected any one of these applications. They are default. They were created for us to showcase the features of Salesforce. And in future, I will tell you how you can create your own application in one of your projects. Okay? So expect that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to call on Efe. Efe Pell, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Hi, thank you very much. So you did mention that we can search for any data from the search, that search button at the top. You can search for almost everything, but you did say that the only thing you can't search for there is an encrypted data. So what I want to know is, as a Salesforce administrator, am I required to encrypt some data? And if so, how do we go about that?
Yeah. As a Salesforce admin, chances are you will be required to make certain fields encrypted fields. So understand the difference between encrypted data and encrypted fields. Encrypted fields are fields whose data are encrypted. So when you're creating your data, you're creating your field in an object, which we're going to do in subsequent class, you will class or categorize that field as an encrypted field. So let me quickly show you what that looks like. Please don't get overwhelmed with what I'm about to show you. We haven't done it yet, but eventually we're going to do it. But I just want to quickly show you what it means to encrypt a field. You go to new. So basically, this is the object manager. I go to the account object, what you can see in the front end, what I've been playing around with. How is it done? It's done from the back end. Again, don't worry about all this right now. I'm just showing Afe how to do this, okay? So can you see this? Text entered into this field is encrypted using classic encryption. So you cannot search for this field. That's what it's saying. Okay, so if you select this field and you create it, then you cannot search this field. And in addition to that, we also have what we called data type. We have what we called, what's it called again? Let me give you, I want to see an example of that. Pick place. We haven't done all this, so I cannot give you an example. But if you have, let's say you have, you know, all those GDPR kind of a thing, I wanted to show you how that is from here. 1 minute. I click on this. I click on the dates. Yeah. So there's also what they call the compliance categorization. If you're working as an architect, for instance, you need to know about this. Most of the time, you want to get data, but you also want to find out what type of data you're getting. PII data is personal identifiable information, right? So you don't want to collect social security number in an open text. You want to maybe abstract it or maybe encrypt it. I don't know. You want to make sure that it's not visible to the public. But don't worry about all this. When we get there, I will show you how to do all this. However, the bottom line is, if a data is encrypted, you cannot search that data in this global search. Okay? Okay, I think you're on mute now, Efe, but that's fine. I'm gonna, Tony, can you unmute yourself and speak? Tony, unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, Tony. Thank you for. Yes, I just want to ask a question regarding the account field, creating an account view. I decided to go into the trailhead to create an account field, and I discovered I made a mistake. Is there a way you can always edit stuff that you made a mistake of?
So by creating an account field, did you create a record or a field? We haven't gotten there yet, but this is a field.
Account view, and it gave me an error message. I couldn't hand those points for that particular trailhead. So
okay. Tony, again, I want any question that you're going to be asking to be limited to what we're doing right now. If it is outside of what we're doing right now, then you probably ask in the right forum, right? You can even ask in a Telegram or in a dedicated channel for paid members. I want the session we're discussing should be about what I have just taught you guys, okay? Otherwise, anyone could have just asked me anything and it's not going to correlate with what we just learned, okay? So please, let's maintain what we're learning, because that's the only way we can grow. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about user, but the questions should be about users, right? Because I want everyone to know about it. And you ask me questions to clarify your knowledge of this, because I wouldn't come back to this tomorrow. Okay? So please try to understand, okay?
Okay, it's just because when you created the account view, I felt that I needed more clarification on that. That's why. No
okay, are you a paid member or are you a basic member?
I'm a standard paid member.
Yeah, so just ask those questions in those forums. Those are trailhead questions. They can, like, people are there to help you. Let's focus on this class and the Salesforce itself. But if you need more, there's a channel for you to ask those questions, okay? Trust me, you will receive all the help you need, okay?
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
No worries. Victor, please unmute yourself and speak. Victor.
Hello, thank you, sir. Talking of users, in a company, apart from employees, who are those that can be regarded as users again? Like, why trying to set up a company information. Apart from the employees, who are those that can be regarded as users again?
So users are those that have access to your Salesforce org. So if they do not have access to your Salesforce orgs, they are not users because you need a license. You need a license for every user that can use your Salesforce org. So typically, your users are your employees and those that you would like to give access to your Salesforce org. However, Salesforce has what they call the external facing platform. So if you're a developer, if you're a consultant, you'll be learning about Community Cloud. Community Cloud is an external facing platform that has nothing to do with Salesforce, but data is being collected from Salesforce to present to that Community Cloud. So anyone can have access to that one based on the license the organization has, but you don't need a license for that, okay? You don't need a license for you to access that, but it has nothing to do with the Salesforce org. Anyone that want to have access to all these things, all this cool stuff, they need a license. And your user are typically your employee or people you want to give access to, okay?
Okay. Then talking of, you made mention of, you said for every user must be assigned to a license. If I have users A to Z, for instance, does that mean I'll assign a license to user A, then to user B? Is there a way I can just assign the license to all the users at once?
Okay.
No.
To be honest with you, we haven't done users, so these questions are based on user setup. However, I will tell you, there are ways which you can assign license to a user, okay? There are manual way, the automatic way, and their advanced way. But when we get there, I will show you. Tomorrow, please attend the class to get that bit. Today, we're just covering the basic stuff, okay? So if you want to find out about license, ask me what are user licenses. I will tell you. User licenses are Salesforce and the likes, okay? Permission license, feature license. These are exam questions. If you're okay with that, that's fine. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering user setup, okay? And you'll get to know more about it. Otherwise, I'll be telling you things I haven't taught you, and it will become confusing, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. No, so unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my question is, first of all, regarding the licenses and permissions. Coming from where I'm coming from, my understanding of permissions is, giving a user the ability to do certain things on the platform. But here you mentioned permissions as a license. So, and you also said that it's someone else does the integration for permission license. So the first thing is, who does the integration? And I'm not really clear about what permission licenses are as regards to feature licenses as well.
Okay, that's good. That's a good question. So let's go to licenses again, and I will go to complaint information, and I will tell you everything about licenses. This is very good. So in Salesforce, every user would have license. Before you can have access to a Salesforce org, you need a user license. User licenses define the baseline of features available to a user. Each user must be assigned one license. Do you understand? If you want to grant an account, if you want to create a user access to this Salesforce, you need to specify a license, okay? Now, you've given a license to a user and they can access the Salesforce org. That's it, done. However, Salesforce has other things a user can do, but it is not part of the original Salesforce user license that you get. It is what they call additional features. Okay, For instance, marketing user license, which is a feature license, it grants you the ability to use marketing features aside the Salesforce feature. You have additional features you can use. Okay? That's what they call a feature license. It gives you other things that a normal Salesforce user wouldn't have. Now, we talk about permission set license. To build analytics, to build commerce user, to build all this stuff, these are different clouds on Salesforce. Now, you have to integrate that cloud to this org. But before you can do that, you need what they call a permission set license, because it's a permission you're granting the user. Okay? So the user have the permission to work with Analytics Cloud, which is integrated into this org. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah, good stuff. So it's very important to know these licenses, because once you start working as a consultant, you'll be facing challenges and they'll be asking you, why can't I do this as a user? You tell them that you only have Salesforce license, but you need to buy this license. You need to buy this license before you can do this, okay? They will ask, not that they will ask you, as a consultant, you should say this to the user, to the business, okay?
Yeah, one last thing, please. I was hoping that maybe at the end of the class, you could recommend another trailhead for us to follow through. I found that the one you recommended yesterday was kind of helpful, so I would appreciate that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Ben, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, Babatope. Thanks again for all you do. I guess the last caller actually touched base on what I was going to be asking you regarding permission set. So I was, in addition to that, is it like a kind of plugin that is available within the Salesforce, or an external thing that needs to be integrated, completely? So that's just what I want to really get clarification on. And yes.
For permission set, yes, you need to install. There's what they call packages in Salesforce. There are some things that are admin related. There are some things that are developer related. I don't want to teach you everything now, unless you're specializing, okay? Install packages are the packages you install to use the Salesforce. So this is where something like permission set licenses might come into play. Before, when you install the package, it might require you to have permission set license. In addition to that, permission set license is typically, let's say someone developed a cool app and you want to install it into your Salesforce. You have to buy license. For instance, those that are going to be installing stuff from the App Exchange, the person is going to make money from you. How do you make money if you're developing for App Exchange? You have to buy the license from that person. It's called permission set license. That's a very good example of permission set license, because you're requesting for the permission to use that package. Okay?
Yes. I think that's clear enough. I was thinking maybe we have like plugins that is easily available within Salesforce that you can just activate it and you add it to your set of what you can do with the applications, whatever you're trying to add to the features you want to do. But it's clear enough. Yes, it's clear enough.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Abiola, unmute yourself and speak. Abiola, unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, thank you, sir. My question is, if you change your location, is it advisable to change everything to that location, or will it recognize that you have changed your location and everything will be changed to that location?
Who is changing location?
I mean, let me say the administrator.
The administrator changed location. What location is the administrator changing? The company location or the user location?
User location.
So if the user location changes, it's only going to change the user location. If the company changes, it's going to change the company location. It's going to change for everything. However, the user can override the changes for the org.
Okay. Will it recognize that you have changed your location and it will automatically change for you, or you have to do it manually?
You don't change it unless it's needed, unless you want to. So it's automatically changed. However, if you want to override that changes, you can go to your settings and override that changes. Okay. So you go to your profile, you go to settings, and you override whatever changes the admin has changed in the org. So it's automatic, but you can override it by changing it yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Remember, the user has the power to override changes. Admin will change for the company, but the user will change for individual. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Oni, unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Okay, so my question is kind of about a switch you made. I realized that you switched to Salesforce Classic and then you went back to Lightning Force, I think. So I just want to know, does it kind of like make the job easier, you know, the switch? And also, does it, I don't know, does it matter who does the switching? Is it kind of like for everyone, or is it just admin focused? Yeah, that's my question. Okay. I don't know if yeah.
No, it's a good question. And so basically, prior to I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, Salesforce used to look like this. Okay, this is what they call the classic, meaning that most people that got into Salesforce in 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they probably are used to the classic view. Okay, Lightning, which is this, is the latest update from Salesforce. Just like Facebook, just like LinkedIn, they usually update their platform. The Lightning view makes Salesforce accessible to a lot of developers because it's based on JavaScript. So we can manipulate a lot of things here because it's what they call the Lightning experience, JavaScript-driven development. So in terms of ease, I don't think there is anything like, although there are some features that are available in the Classic and not available in the Lightning. So in terms of ease, you might probably say, okay, certain things can be done here and certain things can be done here. But most things can be done on Lightning experience now. And in your new job, you are most likely going to meet this Lightning experience instead of Classic. So it's better for you to learn the Lightning and ignore the Classic. However, if you still want to play around with the Classic, fair enough, you can do it. My recommendation is to focus on this and grow with it because this is the latest version of Salesforce. Okay? The reason why I switch is because I don't like the view of Classic. That's all. Okay, Oni? So let's go to the next person, and that's Ife. Ife, unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, thank you, Babajide. I just wanted to seek more clarity, or maybe you'd further explain again. How do you set up local language for a user in different locations? So say the organization you work for is based in New York and you have users maybe in France, you have a user in India and the likes. How do you set up different languages for them based on their different time zone? And then I wanted you to also please review again the difference between the locale and the language. I didn't really get it well. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the difference between locale and the language. I go to setup, okay? And I just type company, okay? And I go to language settings. Oh, sorry, I go to company information. and I go to edit. Okay, so locale settings. Let me explain. Locale settings is the way this default locale is the way Salesforce would format, let's say, your address, your phone number, your, I don't know, whatever it is, the way you write. For instance, in Arabic, they write from the right? So they will just format it based on the way you write, okay? So if you change this locale to, let's say, Germany or UK, the time zone could now be, instead of 2 p.m., it could be 14:00, right? That means they're using 24 hours. Do you get what I mean? It's called locale. Locale is what they use in that country. Okay? Language is the language you want the Salesforce to display in. Right now, it's English, right? Contact, campaigns, accounts. If you change this to French, all this will change to French. Okay? If you change this to Arabic, all this will change to Arabic. That's the language. And the time zone is the time zone your business is operating at or on. So if it's EST, then you select EST as a time zone. This is what is called the default. Okay? Default is what the company sets. However, if you set it at the default, you can override it as a user. Can you see the difference between me changing things as a user? I go to my settings and I change it. So it is the user that will change their time zone, not the business. The business don't control the user time zone. The business gives them a default time zone. However, the user can say, okay, I'm not based in Canada, I'm based in UK. I'm going to change my time zone to UK time zone. However, for business hours, business operation, business can set it, okay? Business can create those hours. The business, okay, I'm currently in, I'm not in setup. I have to go to setup. The business hours cannot be created, but this is mostly used for operations. As you can see, read what it says. Select the days and hours that you're supporting. So it's mostly used for supporting the business. It's not really used for anything else besides this, okay? And it determines the escalation rules and the likes. However, remember, business hours is used to support business operation. It is the user that will change their time zone if they want to operate on a different time zone, okay? And when you're creating a user, you can also specify the time zone of that user if you want to. Let's say, I don't want to explain the things I haven't taught you so you guys don't get overwhelmed. For instance, I'm creating a new user. I can specify the time zone of that user, but they can change it. Okay? They can change it themselves if they want to. Does that help, Ife?
Yeah, it does a lot. Thanks a lot.
No worries. And yeah, please unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, can you please tell me how to set up a new account from the scratch? Because there's different tabs which we don't know where the information is coming from.
We haven't gotten there yet, okay? But I don't understand what you mean by a new account. What do you mean by a new account? Is it new user or new Salesforce trailhead account?
When we are at the sales page and you said we need to go to new, to set up a new account.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to create a new record.
Yeah.
Okay, so you click on new and you create a new record. I haven't done it yet because we haven't got it there yet. It's just to introduce you to Salesforce. We're still doing organization setup and user creation, okay? So when we get to object settings, I will show you how to do it. But then again, all you just need to do is enter information, okay? And you click on save. That's how to create a new account record. It's very simple, okay? But we haven't done it yet.
Any other information like ticker symbol or SIC code?
It's up to you. Those are the information you want to put, but you don't have to put them if it's not needed. If you don't know them, you don't have to put them, okay? However, when we get there, I will show you how. But then again, all this information that you have to put is not compulsory. As you can see, I did not put anything and it still let me save it, right? So they are not compulsory. It's only if you have those information, you have to put them, okay? If your business requires those information, then you need to put them, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Saeed, unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yeah, please. My question is, as an administrator, as a Salesforce administrator, do you have to train all the user by yourself, or all the user already know about using the Salesforce and create an account? I mean, and as an administrator, are you the one who is going to create account for all the user, or they create account by themselves and you manage their account?
By account, what do you mean? I'm just using this as an example. This is not really how to create an account, okay? There is more to. I will tell you about all this stuff later on. I'll be using accounts because this is like account to Salesforce is different from what you call accounts, okay? You call it user, but when it comes to accounts, it's a different concept entirely. I will explain that to you when we get there, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
We have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to answer 2 more questions and we stop for tonight, okay? Joy, unmute yourself and speak. The last question will be from Chairman Richards. Joy, unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, hi, sir. Sorry, I want to ask on user interface. I didn't quite get how to navigate to get there, sorry.
We haven't got it to user interface.
I thought you mentioned, didn't you touch it today? I thought you did, accounts and all that.
Look at everything we touched today. There was
okay, I meant, wasn't it UI and search settings? You didn't do that today?
I did that today.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Or is UI not user interface?
Oh, you said UI. I thought you said user.
No, I said user interface, UI, sorry.
Okay, yeah, this is the user interface pretty much. All this stuff, how to do the new list, how to do the filter, how to find your way around Salesforce is the user interface, okay? How to edit information, how to search. This is the user interface, okay? So basically everything like, if I tell you that create a new account, you know where to go. If I tell you edit an existing account, you know where to go, edit. Okay, if I tell you go into the details of an account, you know where to go. That's the user interface. So you need to get familiar with all this interface, okay? All this UI stuff, okay? That's what it is. Okay, thanks, Joy. Unmute yourself and speak, Chema. The last question for tonight.
Hi, Babatope. Okay, so I already asked this question in the chat, but since I didn't get a response, I was forced to poke you. Apologies. So my question is, typically, if Salesforce upgrades, doesn't that happen across board with all the people operating the platform, even if it comes at an extra cost to the organization, or do they have to operate like different versions as they keep upgrading. Now, where I'm asking this is like, there was someone that asked about the classic view, and I think you called the other on the lightning view. And imagine you're working with an organization that is using the classic view, and I don't know, I'm just thinking, maybe there's a feature that is in this one that is not there. Is this something you can advise, oh, do you guys want to upgrade, or it would be better to upgrade to this version or something? So I just want to know what the rationale is about those upgrades and all of that.
So that's a good question. And the thing there is that Classic is different upgrade from the normal upgrade within Salesforce. So every year, Salesforce upgrades whatever they've done, okay? They have new upgrades, and they will tell you that this upgrade is available for you, okay? So it is you or the admin that will be responsible for initiating the upgrade. Even though it is available, the admin would still have to initiate it within the org. Salesforce will not do it for you. However, from Classic to Lightning is a big and a major upgrade. You don't just do it, you have to do analysis. You have to find out if anything is going to break. You have to find out if this is applicable. You have to find out if this works in Lightning before you carry out that project. It's not something you do casually. There are some banks in Canada right now, they are still on Classic, even though Classic has been over 5 years, but the banks are still using Classic. I said Classic is over 5 years. Lightning is over 5 years, but the banks are still using Classic because most of the transaction, most of the things they've developed is still Classic. And it could be very disastrous if they have to upgrade without proper planning. So then again, to answer your question, you need to plan before you upgrade. Even though Salesforce will tell you this upgrade is available, you cannot just upgrade it without planning it, okay? So that's the answer to that question.
Okay, then one last thing. Yeah, that helps. One last thing is, I think you didn't touch the last two items. Are we starting from there tomorrow on your schedule when you started?
So the different types of display, I showed you different types of display, which is you have the Kanban, you have the split view, and you can create display based on different items here. And for the Lightning App Builder app menu, I did tell you about the app and how you can switch from app. This is a app menu, right?
Okay.
And the only thing I probably didn't tell you is how to build your own app, but we haven't gotten there yet, so I cannot teach you that now, okay? But I'll definitely teach you when the time comes, okay?
All right, thank you.
No worries. I think that's the last questions. That's the last question. I hope you guys have learned something. If you want to learn more about what we did today, I've posted something in the chat. Please click on that link, and it will take you to some of the things we touched today, like the exchange rates, update exchange rate, customize home page, create a unique list view, and something like that, okay? So try it yourself and just learn. And more importantly, you can go and learn everything that we are going to be doing in this training. You can learn ahead of the class, and whenever it comes, whenever we do it in class, it becomes easier, right? So if you go to this page, I already pasted this in the chat as well. You will see everything I'm following. Like everything I say in class is something I've done in the past, and I'm just giving it to you the way I know it, right? So please read ahead of the class and you'll be fine. For tomorrow, I think we're going to be doing viewing, and so user management is pretty much what we're going to be doing tomorrow. But then again, make sure that you know how to create a user ahead of the class. Then when I'm creating it in the class tomorrow, it becomes easier for you, okay? So that's all I will say. And I think that's all from me. Please try to learn ahead of class so you can learn more while we're doing it in class. That's all from me. Take care, guys. All the best. And I will see you in class tomorrow. Bye. Bye, everyone.